So today we are going to attempt to try and fix the tape deck on the stereo you've just seen, which is my Sony MHC-NX1. So it's quite an interesting little unit. It's quite a versatile unit. It's not really little by any means, despite the fact that it's listed as a mini hi-fi, not in today's standards anyway. So I use this as the soundbar for my television, as well as everything else. One half is an amplifier, and then this half is the CD and cassette deck, and it's this one that we're going to be looking at today. We have some issues with the cassette deck that are mainly age related, not through overuse, but basically the deck is not working correctly, and it's due to the fact that the drive belts have given up basically through age. I've had it open before, and as we'll see, it's actually got a build date on the inside of the 4th of April 2000, which makes it just over 19 years old, and considering that's really the only thing that's wrong with it, that's not bad going. So let's start to have a look inside. We won't need too many tools for this job, so we know a little basic toolkit, and we only really need to undo 4 screws and 1 wire which keeps these 2 units joined together. So let's move on to the next stage and have a look. So this is looking at the back of the amplifier half. So we've got the aerial, we've got an input for an AM antenna, cooling fan, output for 1 set of speakers, which would be front speakers, and an output for a rear set of speakers, which I'm not using at the moment. We have quite a lot of, well, we've got 2 inputs really. One is video, which is the TV input, and the other comes up on the radio as MD, because of course when this came out the mini disc was the in thing, but that's currently linked to my Iowa PX380 record player. Sorry, PX-E850 record player. And then the other is a line into the radio, line out, sorry, for these 2 here. And there's also a digital out as well. Now this slot here, I suspect is a bespoke slot, but that is where this wire plugs in, and this wire is for the CD and cassette unit, which we shall now have a look inside of. So this is one fantastic piece of engineering, and it's quite amazing at what really goes on in here. So like a jukebox, the CDs go in through the slot at the front, and we have a number 1 through to 5 which change colour when a CD is loaded, and each deck has its own eject button. It's a very, very smart piece of kit, this, because while playing one CD you can eject and insert another. The CDs are stacked in here, and then when one is ready to be played, it is then pulled into this section here and played. Now it's quite an intricate little system of pulleys and gears in here to work this. It is fascinating to watch, and we will try it at the end. What is interesting is that all of these drive belts here are available on eBay should they perish and need to be replaced. Now these ones haven't given me any bother so far, so I'm going to leave these ones for now because I don't think we need to do anything with them at all. Down below is where the real problems have been. So let's have a look around the other side at the tape deck. So this is looking at the back of the tape deck, and the build date is revealed just here, the 4th of April 2000. So as you can see, the motor in the middle at the back there operates the tape decks, and lying just down here, if we can zoom in a bit, is the drive belt. And the drive belt should be attached to the pulley that has the build date on. Now that has stretched basically and just given way. So that is one of the main reasons why we need to do what we're about to do. The reason, well, what this does is deck B will still work, but deck A will not unless we change that belt. And while we're at it, we might as well do all of the other belts. Again, surprisingly easy to find these belts, so I managed to buy this kit from eBay for a grand total of £13.99, which is not bad to fix something like this. I could have spent more. There are other kits out there, and the other kits out there actually include the pinch rollers for the tape deck as well, of which there are 4, because this has auto reverse, which we'll have a look at before we start to disassemble it. So here we can see the insides of deck A on the left and deck B on the right. If we zoom in on deck A, you can see the stereo head in the middle, and get the focus right there, one pinch roller for each direction of running. Now what is interesting about this, the head is operated by a solenoid, and the buttons are actually situated just above, so one button for each direction and stop. And some radios do this differently. Some have a head that slides from one side of the tape to the other. Some have a head which will have all 4 tracks already on it. Can I get a closer look in? Maybe not. It is a stereo head naturally. What this one does is, when it wants to change sides, the tape will change direction, and that head will retract and flip 180 degrees and then continue with the next side. So it's quite a neat little system. Now deck B, just next to deck A, has a slightly different head, if you'll notice. Now the little lump next to the playhead is the erasing head, and that is in contact with the tape at all times and is magnetised electrically when recording needs to be done. Now I did test this about 9 months ago and it does still work quite happily. It records off FM radio, it records off the CD, and it will copy tape to tape as well. And this actually does have a high speed option as well, high speed dub, although until we change those belts we'll not be doing any of that. And as you can see just on the front here we have the Dolby noise reduction, as well as the options for the high speed dub. And you can even synchronise it with a CD, so when you press play on the CD it'll start recording on the tape. It really is a nice bit of kit. Not something that we'd probably use much now, recording to tape, but it's nice to know that we still have that option if we want. So in order to get all this we're going to have to take the front of the radio off. That whole fascia is going to need to come off in order to reveal the tape decks to us. So we'll have a go at doing that now. So this is the CD door, and then down here we have the many different pulleys and wheels belonging to the tape deck. This has been quite interesting to get into so far. And you can see it's not just the standard kind of tape deck. There's a couple of drive belts that drive a capstan and gears linking to a for the capstan for the tape as well. So what we have here is one motor in the middle, which is what the belt that had jumped off before runs from to turn deck A. But this motor, whenever it is running, is also turning the capstans in deck B as well, so all 4 capstans are always spinning no matter which deck is running, which is rather interesting. Now hopefully we've got all the belts in this kit. I haven't counted them, but we've got all the belts in this kit to do them all. So we'll take a closer look at what some of these belts are like, because they're quite interesting in themselves. So straight away, this belt that drives deck B is a very flat belt, whereas the broken one that drives deck A is not. It is a fascinating little system. It is actually a really nice bit of engineering, and you know, a really good little mechanism. I'm unsure why the coils are there. Whether these are linked to the solenoids, I don't know. Perhaps somebody watching might be able to answer that question. However, we're not there yet, because obviously we now need to get into all this to be able to replace these different belts. And that's where the fun really will start. Okay. We have different micro switches in here as well, which are also quite interesting. That wire split, hopefully not. It's creased. So the micro switches in the front at the top tell the machine if there's a tape in, as well as acting as the electronic switches which decide whether the tape can be recorded on or not. So the small belt actually turns out to be quite easy. It just needs to be threaded on around this one here. There we go. Pick it up with the screwdriver. And here. We just need to make sure it sits on the right part of the this bit that drives the capstan, because we don't want it to disappear behind. So then it needs to go over, my fingers are in the way, over there. And then we just need to get it onto the right piece of metal down here. So that belt, after we threaded it behind here, is now on. I've just checked it does not twisting at all. So that can now drive in either direction. The heads, the tape. The next one to renew is the flat belt, which is this one here, which is quite intricate, because it needs to go around this one here to drive this capstan. So it actually needs, without my hair on it, it actually needs to sit underneath here, but it also needs to go over the top of here, which is going to be interesting. And it just sits just on there, just about. There we go. It's going to just basically sit like that, and then be driven by that motor, which should be quite nice. So the motor is where my finger is, and it sits in a little setup like that. So what we're going to do next is then we'll get the motor reattached with the new belt that's on it here, and then we'll just repeat this process but with the other side. So there's two belts on the other side, one flat belt and one short belt to drive the tape, which we will get on and replace now. So this is deck A, and I've had to release this bit here to get the belts off. So again, like with this side, which is now completed, one belt is going to sit behind here and drive this for the tapes, the actual capstans on the tape, and then the other belt is going to go around here and under and across the top here and onto this, which spins both of the capstans, as can be seen on here. So we'll get those belts installed and start to reassemble this very sad looking heap of parts. Right, that's those belts now successfully replaced. So now the last belt that we need to do is this one here, which just literally goes over there and not twisting. They're all moving, and that's successful. They're a nice tight fit, unlike the belts that came off, which I've put in the packet. So now comes the lovely part, lovely job of reassembling this monstrosity. So I think it's time for a time lapse. So crunch time then, let's see what happens. So we have the remote. We'll switch it on from the amplifier part first of all. So at the moment it's on video setting. The CD deck's just recalibrated itself there. But we'll try that shortly. What I'm interested in first of all is the tape deck. So I'm going to risk a tape that I got given, which is dire straits, money for nothing. Now I have played this before and it does work, and I'm probably going to get hammered for YouTube copyright by trying to play this. However, I believe I've done a good job. I sort of trust my own work. Let's give it a go. So we'll try deck A first of all, which was the deck that did not work at all. Now this tape does not seem to have any type of noise reduction on it. It does not. Oh, there you see. It will focus. Camera will focus eventually. Go on. Come on, baby. You will do it. There we go. It's a chromium dioxide tape, which I think is a type 2. I think. So let's see what happens. Drop it in. We'll press play. I'll try and show you all of the insides working as well, but let's just see from the outside if it works. So I know that it'll want to go in this direction, so let's try it. Sounds a little noisy. Is it turning? A little slowly. So we may have to look at that. Perhaps we haven't got it right yet. But it has not chewed the tape up. That's good. What about if we put it into deck B? Well, that's good. So that means that we have deck B back, but deck A still doesn't seem to want to work perfectly. So let's just try and see what happens if we reverse the direction. It may still be blank, but let's try. Yes, it sounds a little noisy. I think this needs a little bit of further investigation. Interesting. Yes, we'll have a look and see if we can figure out where the noise is coming from. Okay, so I'll have to revisit this at some point and solve the mystery of deck A playing at half the speed. But in the meantime, if we stay on the theme of Mark Knopfler, I want to show you how the CD deck works. So, obviously, I was saying before, the CDs all arrive in here, and they're taken out bit by bit and played in here. So if we put this album in, we'll be able to see it work. Now, the reason I've chosen this album is it's a double CD, and we're going to make this thing work hard for us to show us what it really can do. So I'm going to put one disc of it into CD1 at the top here, which is ready to receive it, and I'm going to put the other disc into deck 5, so it has to go the furthest possible distance to change decks. So if we open CD1 first, okay, so put it in and just insert it for now. See, it's already loaded into here. So what we can do now is, again, probably going to get hammered on copyright for YouTube, if we press play, the CD will start. And we even have CD text. Fascinating. So while that's doing that and playing that, let's put the second disc of this album into deck number 5. So we're going to have to eject that now, and then it will start to. So get that in. And put it in. And now, for the really fascinating part, if we press deck 5 to start it playing deck 5, obviously we're going to have to spit out the first disc back into 1 and take number 5 out. Here we go. And feeding back our CD text. Now, what a lovely piece of kit this is, when it works, of course. And while that's playing, we can take disc 1 back out. And put it back in its case. And now that the demonstration's over, disc 5 can come back out. There we go. Put that away for now. So there's no disc now. Lovely bit of kit, but I really would not fancy replacing all the belts on there, and the belts hidden inside the CD deck. It's hunting for the next CD, but there's none in at all. Maybe because I've messed with it, it's realising, oh hang on, do I have a disc or not? It's now looking on deck 4. Also, because I've turned the power off to it as well, it's lost its memory of what it has and what it has not got. Now it's realised it's totally empty. There we go. And true to form, displayed on the screen, no discs. So I'm going to put the lid back on it and try and figure out why we only have half speed on deck A. Thank you for watching. I hope this was sort of informative. On closer inspection, we can solve the deck A tape speed mystery. When the camera comes into focus, he says. Basically, that belt that's in the foreground here should be in that groove, not on the spindle where it is. So as soon as it gets in that groove, deck A will play perfectly. So now that we've put the belt into the correct groove, let's get dire straits back in. And now we have the correct speed. Sounds alright as well. What's on the other side, I wonder? Oh, it's still blank on that side. Fantastic. That's it. Success.